Hackney Council's new Public Space Protection Order, or PSPO, allows police or council officers to ask people to stop antisocial activities such as begging, sleeping rough, or drinking alcohol on the street.
I think it could be a good thing for the community, because having homeless people about asking for money and drinking around kids, I think it doesn't help the community, and I think that they're really inconvenient as well. For example, I went to a drive-thru with my friend, and while we were waiting to get served, a homeless man came up to me to ask me for money, and I found it really disrespectful because he didn't smell nice, and I lost my appetite, and it wasn't good. And yeah, I just hope that this whole thing that's happening can help the community.
Those who breached the order, which covers the areas of Hackney Downs, London Fields, Broadway Market, Mayor Street and Regent's Canal, could be issued a £100 fixed penalty notice or a fine of up to £1,000. I have come to London Fields to gauge the thoughts of residents.
The public protection order, many charities have said that it disproportionately targets the homeless and people who are already in a desperate position. What are your views on that?
This is a very badly affected area. Often around here, just behind us, there's lots of people around. I just think it depends on the extent of the nuisance.
Okay.
If they are, being a real pain, or they're, maybe invading personal space or something like that, then yeah, fair enough. But it's not necessarily fair to maybe isolate somebody just because they're homeless.
It's backwards, isn't it? I mean, that's stupid.
I mean, I agree that something should happen, that they should a fine to homeless people. I wouldn't give it. But
me neither. They have no money. Like, where would you find them? How are they gonna pay it? But then it's true that it is quite annoying to have, like, every time we have a drink here, there are at least 5 people coming to ask for money. So
it's always the same.
It's always the same people. So we give them cigarettes.
The council claims that local businesses and residents in the area welcomed the PSPO's introduction, but there was not and has still not been any formal consultation ahead of its implementation. I wanted to get a sense of what local businesses thought.
In this area, yes, there are a lot of people. I think that nowadays the problem is much less than it used to be before, because the area was underdeveloped for lots of years.
Okay.
After the Olympic Games, the whole East London generally was highly developed, and rapidly as well. So I think that the problem is less and less right now.
Okay.
Unfortunately, in this road that I'm working in, majority of the homeless people are not the kind of homeless that they are the people that they couldn't find a job, or they are not educated enough. There are people that it was mostly a matter of choice, their situation right now. There are people that they have some habits like drug addiction or alcoholics. So they are trying to fight that one. We are trying to help them as well. Majority of the time, though, there's not what we are expecting to have as an attitude from them.
I've not really come across many problems lately at all, to be honest with you. There's quite a few street beggars, but other than that, there's a few people that sort of, I don't know, a few people living in rough, I guess, around the park area, but other than that, I've not really come across too much.
Have you had any bad experiences with the public space protection order?
Yeah, well, I'm homeless. I'm sleeping in St John's Graveyard at the moment in Mayor Street. I'm not getting no benefits because I haven't got a fixed address. So, and I don't commit crime. The only way I eat is to sit down and hope that the public help me. But lately we've had nothing but trouble from the council workers and community police moving us on. And I've now been fined £280 and I've got to go to court on Wednesday, the 10th of June. And obviously I ain't going to be able to pay £5 a week off my benefits because I don't get no benefits. So obviously they're going to put me in prison for trying to survive.
What Tracy had just told me was very discouraging, so I went to Hackney Council to try to get some answers. It turns out that the person spearheading the PSPO policy is Councillor Sophie Linden, a Labour councillor who also happens to be Deputy Mayor for the council. When I tried to contact her, she was unavailable for comment. Instead, I was referred to a link containing a statement she had issued to the press. It can be found at The council has said that enforcement of the order will always be a last resort, but critics like homelessness charity Crisis argue the ban will effectively criminalise homelessness and that rough sleepers will simply be shunted into another borough. Councillor Abraham Jacobson, a Lib Dem councillor, was happy to speak about PSPO.
What they're trying to do is slap down a £100 fine for anybody who's deemed, homeless or sleeping rough. Rather than reducing crime, all they're doing is dividing the society of Hackney. Anybody can be made homeless. Nowadays, with cuts and benefits, you've got people who'll be made homeless, being evicted. There's a shortage of social housing, so people can find themselves on the streets through no fault of their own. A person might lose a job, and all of a sudden, they're kicked out, they've been in a house sharing, they're not covered by the Landlord and Tenant Act. And I think it's absolutely outrageous. They're just slapping down £100 and basically rubbing salt in the wounds of people who are less fortunate than we are.
As I've already mentioned, Hackney Downs is one of the worst affected areas, according to Hackney Council. I was able to contact Rick Muir, the councillor for this area, but he declined to speak about PSPO, citing collective responsibility and the fact that he didn't feel comfortable speaking to the press about this matter before an internal council meeting to be held on the 17th of June. He did say he would be more than happy to speak to me after that. While I was here, I decided to speak to the residents.
According to Hackney Council, this area, along with London Fields and Hackney Central, are the worst affected areas for begging and homelessness. Have you experienced any homeless people begging in this area, personally?
They obviously need the money, but living in Hackney, you do get a lot of problems with people on the street. But I think if you're a resident of the area, you're just kind of sensitive to that.
I've lived in this area for like 3 years, and I've never really. It's not something that's ever sort of really affected me. I can't say that it's anything. I don't think it's any worse than any other sort of parts of, certainly around here, it's no worse than Dalston.
I've actually seen quite a lot in town. Obviously, yes, here, everywhere in London, there's so many homeless people. It's not the fault of the homeless people, it's the fault of the rent. Rent's so expensive. I don't understand how they can put laws against it. It can't be illegal not to have a home and to live on the street. If people want to give their money away, that's fine. There's worse things that are crimes. Asking is fine. But we should be in a society where we teach people to give so people don't have to ask. Where rent's not so high so people can actually afford it, where people can get jobs, there's there's bigger problems.
It seems funny because I don't think homeless people will have £1,000.
It seems obvious, exactly.
Yeah, in this area as well, it's a nice area and you don't really get that many problems like that. It's a bit different to Hackney Central, but yeah, £1,000 fine seems unrealistic.
I then went to Hackney Central to see what some of its residents thought about the situation.
I've just heard about it now. It's came as a bit of a shock, wasn't expecting to hear that. Don't really get how that's kind of a logical solution to anything if they are indeed looking for a solution. There's got to be other ways basically, and this is going to encourage me to look more into it. So because I don't like being from a position of where I don't know much about things that I'm talking about, so I'm going to look more into it. And I have to say, I've lived here since September, so not that long, which is quite ironic considering you're talking about gentrification. But I've actually stood in this spot many a time, going home, going to Tesco, and spoken to a lot of homeless people and beggars, and they've all been so polite, really lovely, chatting to me about my bike, about about cars and traffic and how they don't like bikes and cyclists and stuff. So always had great experiences. That's all what I have to say about that. Basically.
It seems Hackney Council does have a case for which to try to tackle perceived negativity caused by Hackney's homeless community. But opinion among Hackney's residents is sharply divided, with some unbothered by the homeless and others seeing it as an issue needing address. What they do agree on, however, is that the policy as it currently stands is unacceptable. But until the council readdress the policy, the lives of homeless people like Tracy, Jim, and even his three-legged dog Beamer will be made just a little bit harder.